Hey everybody, this episode's accidentally brought to you by Severance Saison by Heisler Brewery. Severance Saison, for when you weren't expecting to be on vacation, but surprise, dum-dum, now you are. Severance Ale, from the makers of Was That Your Neck? Red Ale. Let's start the show.
Welcome to Designers Are the Worst, your new least favorite show about an exclusively visual medium, cleverly brought to you in an audio for Matthew. And my name is Matthew.
My name...
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
oh my God.
My name is Matthew Alec, and that's my full name.
My name is Marcus Lee, like Bruce Lee.
Oh. The General Lee, which...
Or Tommy Lee.
I watched 20 minutes of that Dirt movie on Netflix.
Dirt.
The Dirt, whatever.
Dirt.
The Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And I turned it off. It was god awful.
See,
It was horrible.
I was the complete opposite. I really liked it. And I'll tell you why. Because prior to that, I watched Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a big pile of shit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was just, I mean, I only know some parts of what went wrong, but it was definitely felt like the Brian May as equal part story. And like they gave equal screen time to the drummer and the bass player, and nobody gives a shit about those people.
There are too many surviving members of the band. So Freddie Mercury can't say, "Put more of me in, darling." And then all the fuzzy-haired guys can say, we actually said quite a bit in that meeting as well. So, just put it in. It's fine. Just put it in.
Yeah. So that movie was terrible. So seeing the Dirt, I really liked it.
Did you like when they made a big point of Tommy Lee making that girl squirt in the first 5 minutes?
Yeah.
That was fucking stupid. That was like, hey guys, check this out. He's like,
Go watch Bohemian Rhapsody.
I did.
Then compare it. They're bad.
So Bohemian Rhapsody, after we watched it, I said like, wow, that guy can really do that singing pretty well. But
He didn't sing.
yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He sounds like he's a robot
Yeah.
from.
Well, look at him. His eyes are far apart. He's pretty vacant. He could be be a savant. But what I thought about that movie that was strange is that in like the 70s, as like a gay immigrant kid who wants to be like a rock star and dresses like a girl, he faced almost no adversity. And I can guarantee that wasn't the case. So it's like, good news, darlings. We played one show. Now we've got a record deal. And it's like, oh, it's good news. It's like that. I wanted to see more of like the struggle because I can guarantee there was a bunch of it.
From what I understand from a Howard Stern interview with Borat, he had mentioned that he wanted to tell more of Freddie's story after, like his love story, and his life afterwards. But from what he was mentioning, there were some creative differences, and that's why he was removed from the project. But he would have been great.
Yeah,
because he's taller.
But I can't unsee Borat.
That's what they were worried about.
Yeah,
is that people wouldn't be able to. Well, he went on to make other such award-winning films as the Brothers Grimsey with Grimsey. Was
that when he had a bowl
cut?
Fuck,
it was stupid.
It looked
dumb.
Very terrible.
I do want to jump back to my dumb intro though. The Heisler Brewery.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about it because I was looking for, because obviously Severance Saison is not a real beer. I mean, if it is, then I don't know. But I picked it because it was relevant to the topic of today. And in doing so, I was looking for fake beer company names out of curiosity. Stumbled across reading about them and learning that they make the beer for every TV show and movie
Yeah.
that requires a custom beer.
Yeah.
And they just fill it with non-alcoholic or water.
So if anybody has ever watched the show Workaholics, they drink it like anytime they're on the roof drinking beer, they have like a 15 pack of Heisler.
Same with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But theirs, apparently, they fill with sparkling water because they drink a lot on the show. But yeah, it's a prop company that's just been making it, and they can fill it with whatever you want, which is pretty good.
Beer?
Beer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about today's episode topic?
Yeah, we'll bring it up. And then there's a couple things that I have that we can go over. And I'm bringing back an old favorite of mine, maybe only mine. Finding people on Twitter and stuff that say designers are the worst, and I in a way I was like, oh, this is great, and then another way it's like, oh, this is way too easy to find, an anti-Semitic one. So we can look forward to that in a minute.
We have questions to answer.
Yeah, we have 2 actual questions from actual people that I know exist, and they're sensible questions, and we'll get. I think that we can do towards the end of the show because they relate to the topic, which
is about what did we decide? It was like looking
Design
for jobs, job loss,
design jobs, having them, losing them, finding them,
keeping them,
starting new ones, and all the little spices that fall in between.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go over that today.
Until that time, what'd you get up to?
One thing I wanted to bring up is I realized after the last one, out of context, we talked a lot about Harvey Weinstein.
No, you did.
Yeah, it was fun. But the reason I did that is a year like right after we kind of finished recording the episode 10, like a year and a half
season
ago.
1 finale.
Season 1. I was asked to be on a podcast called Clients from Hell. So our friends Al and Kristen were going to be on it as well. Just saw Al a couple of weeks ago at Cafe Mexico. When you left, we stayed until like 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That was a solid night. That was like 7 hours at the bar. But yeah, so they were asked to be on it because they do like tons of rad illustration. Look at them stuff on Instagram at I think it's Designed by Creatures. Anyway, so they were asked to be on it. They knew the dude that ran it, and then they asked if my lady and I wanted to be on it because we were running a business together at the time. And so I used all the equipment we're listening to the podcast on right now. I used to record Al and Kristen's podcast with this guy who was in my house, and it was like over Skype, which always has that beautiful half-second delay before anybody laughs or says what.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, we'll finish recording that, and then we'll record yours. So I just turned the mics around, and I started a new track in GarageBand exactly the way I do this show. And then I made at the time, Weinstein was like a current thing. It's still a horrible thing, but then it was new. And then I made a bunch of other stupid jokes because I can't talk sincerely, so I just make up stupid shit the whole time. And after we were done recording, the guy was like, yeah, I think that was pretty good. I might have to edit out some of those jokes. I tried some of that Weinstein stuff in my stand-up routine, went over like a lead balloon. And I looked at everybody else in the room. And I was like, I bet it did because like you didn't make me laugh this whole goddamn time. So I made it a pledge to myself to on the first episode back to talk about Harvey Weinstein because I missed my window a year and a half ago. But I'll be goddamned if I'll be denied again. So I won't be talking about it again.
You got out of your system?
Yeah,
and so did he into a plant. It's real dumb.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from that, nothing really is happening that much. Working on named a new company, branding it right now. It's a big medical cannabis company. Not medical, legal. We used to have to call it medical, and that was a code word for legal. But now it's just legal.
It's true.
Yeah. So doing something kind of... I showed you one of the pictures I made a while back for like the proof of concept. It's going to be weird and trippy and crazy and fun. It's going to be super fun to make. A lot of the branding out in the weed world right now is really like play it so safe because the government's handed down all these regulations about it's way gnarlier than branding beer or any kind of booze. Mm-hmm. And what everybody else does is they just obey the rules, but they don't read between the lines. So it's like you cannot have a person on your label because that's like endorsing it, or it could be misconstrued as like a character or a mascot. So you can't have an animal or anything.
Is that can you have a name of a person, like a real person?
Well, if it's related to the strain name, then I think you could. but you can't like visually. You can't. It sounds like you can't make it any fun, but they're like you can't have like a person smiling on the label being like weed is good. So I was like, what if you take the person, like the picture of them, and you cut their head off and replace it with like a plant or like an asteroid or a building or whatever. And then we're checking with the lawyers and like, well, it's technically not a person. It's a body with like a screwed up head. So I made this like big screwed up picture. Like you can't have people, animals, vehicles, because they don't want like even like skateboards or like bikes, because you can't promote getting high and traveling by anything other than your little feet or a bus or whatever.
So could you use a severed foot?
You could use a severed foot.
Hey,
and
it's very West Coast.
Yeah, so I read between the lines and just making a bunch of like screwed up stuff that's like, it's not a dog because I cut it in half, and on the front of it it's like a missile or something, and they're like, well, it's dumb but it's illegal. I'm like, that is the point. So
it's like the Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, I just heard about that documentary about the making of that.
Of the movie?
That I forgot. Yeah. Apparently it's super screwed up. I heard about it like a few years ago. Then I just heard it brought up again the other day on another podcast. And apparently they filmed it in Australia. There was nothing but issues filming. Marlon Brando was just at that point like fully fucking insane. Like you couldn't reason with him. At one point the director was fired and he just ran into the jungle. And they didn't see him again until he snuck back on set and dressed himself up as one of the weird like half animal things that like screw in the cave or whatever. So the fired director is in the movie as like a half animal person, and he like crawled out of the jungle to do this. And it looks great. It looks better than the movie did.
To each their own.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, one other quick thing I wanted to bring up is we were on all the other episodes of the podcast, and including the last one, we are plugging our website as designersaretheworst.com, and I thought I still had that domain, and I didn't. So now it's worstdesignshow.com. And then after I registered that, and then I transferred all of everything we had from Squarespace, I just put them each episode as a post on Medium. And then went back into my domain thing, and it was like, hey, would you like to register designersaretheworst.com? And I went in there to specifically look for that domain name like an hour before that, and it was just out of my account, and it said it wasn't available.
Weird.
So out of spite, I didn't buy it. So it's worstdesignshow.com. And give us a fake clap on Medium, because those count.
Those count for pennies.
Oh, is that for like the premium?
Yeah,
or the paywall thing?
If you have some sort of advanced account. I think they really shit the bed on that platform, because you go to read an article, it's like, you've read 3 this month, now you got to pay. It's like, well,
oh really?
Not on every article, but on some.
Because you can flag your article as like a paywall article. Yeah. Fuck. But just the fact that I can go on there and post our podcast episodes, and it's like, nobody's there saying this is like a valid article or even well written or even like reasonable.
Yeah.
There's nobody saying no, which tells me that platform is doomed, because I didn't want to clog it with our dumb show. So I went on seeing if anybody else posts podcast episodes on there, and tons of people do.
Well, there we go.
And a bunch of them are like clickbait to go into like their ad revenue like it's all bullshit. So I was like, well, at least we're like legitimately dumb and we're not scamming anybody. It's a free show.
Well, yet.
Yeah, not yet.
It's time for us to learn how to do it.
From that Wall Street man, the wolf guy.
Leonardo?
Yeah.
Sell me this pen. Well, never seen it.
Never will.
I tried. I know we talked about this off the air at some point, but I watched the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I still got to watch it. I've been enjoying Flixify, by the way. It's great.
Yes.
It's up there.
But we don't talk about it.
Nope.
Doesn't exist.
No, I was talking about watching.
Nothing.
Nope.
Boring. So, and I only talk about it. I've been on a real movie kick recently of just watching tons that I've wanted to watch for a while. But I'm only going to talk about that one because it is design-ish. Mm-hmm. In the fact that, one, the story was great. The storytelling was better. The way that they created it in a computer was phenomenal. The camera angles, cinematography was what they should be doing for real humans for movies.
Yeah.
But then the style itself was so cool and unique, and so you'd have like, it looked like a comic, but it wasn't, and it looked like stop motion, but it wasn't. And then they added all these other dimensional Spider-Man, including a Spider-Ham, which most people thought that have seen it just think it's a made-up character. But no, it's a real spin-off that I had the comic when I was a kid. And I don't even know why I had it, but I remember having it. And didn't you say like, oh, what is his name? Peter Porker?
Yeah.
And that's his name.
Yeah.
It's great. And he works for the Daily... Is it the Daily Bugle? I think they called it something else.
Food related.
But he's a photographer. It was great.
And Spider-Ham is voiced by John Mulaney.
Yes.
One of our finest stand-up comedians.
Which apparently they had to redo a lot of his lines because he used a lot of profanity because he didn't realize what it was.
Well, he came in and they're like, yeah, just have fun with it. He's like, hey, Spider Kid, fucking whatever. Here's my webs, you piece. And it was just like going off. And he's like, so how was that? They're like, oh, love the energy. God, we think you're so funny. It is a kid's movie. And he's like, oh shit. He's like, sorry, I thought this was like a after dark thing. Like, no, this is for children. He's like, oh, sorry.
It was Fritz or Heavy Metal. That's what he thought it was.
Oh, there's one called Street Fight that was like the most racist cartoon that I'd ever seen. It was, yeah.
Did you ever watch Heavy Metal?
It's almost unwatchable.
It's bad, but they used that. I think it's called not rotoscoping or cinescoping. It's the way that they did a lot of the old animation where they would take film of real people and then just sketch over it.
Yeah, because
trace over it.
It's like, way too fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's weird that was a common practice of essentially just tracing.
Yeah. It looked cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Heavy Metal was something where you needed like a van and like short shorts and like you had to be a guy at a point, be like, fuck, like I super connect with this because I watched it when I was in like my 20s. I don't even know if I went the whole way through. Like it just seemed like some weirdo couldn't get his hands on footage of naked women just at a store. He was like banned from every store. So he's like, I get it. Like trolls and boobs and a spaceship and boobs. And yeah, it was I was watching some guy that like wears loose sweatpants and goes and watches like the girls' soccer game. Like he made a movie and I don't want to watch his movie.
Well, it's funny because it wasn't the same, but it kind of spurred that those arcade games, Dragon's Lair.
That was a good one.
Was it Space Ace? Those are the same animators.
It was like
they were so fucking hard. Like
Dragon's Lair almost looked Disney-ish.
Yeah, that was the closest one to it.
That was almost like Sword and a Stony.
Yeah.
That was good.
But I could never get past like the first few video screens because I never figured out that where it flashed was where you're supposed to move the joystick or hit the button. Like I never figured that out. And now if I watch like somebody play through it on YouTube, I'm like, oh, the game looks easy.
Yeah, but when you put a quarter in and you're like 9 and the pressure's on, your mind just turns into shit and you can't do anything.
Right. Did you ever play? Because I know you were in Nanaimo for a while.
Yeah.
So you must have hit the malls.
That's a horrifying town up north from Victoria where we live. And if you're listening, and
Home
you
of
live
the
there, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Home of the Nanaimo.
You could be a
bar.
lovely person and live in a terrible town, but make no mistake, it is a terrible town.
Yes. But I remember going there. I don't remember what mall, but it was the one that had the arcade and
Rutherford.
the comic store.
Yeah.
And they had
Country Club, because that had the comic store.
right.
Yeah.
Was it Curious Comics?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, that arcade had that hologram Sega game. It was the big
The cowboy
white
one?
Yeah.
That one was impossible.
I couldn't play it, but I liked looking at it.
Yeah.
It just blew your mind.
But looking at it now, like you'd think it was a hologram, but they projected the picture onto a concave piece of plexiglass.
Yeah.
It still looked rad.
The effect was enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Is
it
that
worked.
what Dragon's Lair was like too?
no, Dragon's Lair was just a full screen
Okay.
with one joystick and one button.
Well,
Same with
shit.
Space Ace.
We should do a show on like video game design, because a lot of that old like 80s, 70s stuff is pretty gnarly, and like pinball machines.
That's going to be like a 10-hour episode for me.
Or 10 1-hour episodes, and then we're done until like, I don't know, when's Arbor Day?
Well, it could turn into a field trip because now we have quasars.
Yeah, we got a new old school arcade.
Which I was just reading before we started this that they just got 20 new vintage games, like some really rare ones too, like Tapper.
Jake Tapper from CNN.
Yes, it's a game just about Jake Tapper from the 70s.
And his horrifying cartoons he draws on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like playing Narc. I didn't really like it when I was a kid. And then I went there with my kids, and they're like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, you're like cops." And
Just fuck shit up.
but what it turns out, the first scene is them pulling up into an alley in like a convertible Ferrari Testarossa. They're both wearing motorcycle helmets.
But hold on.
They're driving a car.
But hold on. They also don't stop the car and get out. They jump out of the car as
Yeah.
it's moving.
And then what they do is see anybody in a trench coat, perceive them as either homeless or a junkie, and you can just without hesitation, like mow everybody down. And then if one of these lucky junkies, and don't kid yourself, they're all lucky, they throw a syringe at you that's about the size of like a baguette, and it sticks in your thigh, and you're running in your little vest and your motorcycle helmet, two-handing like Uzis or whatever they have,
And
with
get
like
rocket launchers.
with syringes sticking out of your thighs, just mowing homeless people down indiscriminately.
But I appreciated the game when at the beginning of the level it would tell you like, look out for this stereotype, kill him. It's like trench coat guy. It's like, all right. And then you collect money on the way.
Yeah, and cocaine. They dropped their bags of drugs, and you collect it, I guess, as evidence. But like, I took my kid there,
Quote unquote evidence.
Yeah. I took my kid there for his birthday in February, and a bunch of his friends, and him and his buddy were playing it. And they're like, hurry, grab the cocaine before it goes away, because it's all like flashing. And they're
Before
just,
it goes bad.
there's like 4 12-year-olds screaming cocaine. And I'm like, here's more quarters, kids. And yeah, it's fun though.
Jen and I went there one evening, and I got real sweaty. Just, we split the token amount, and by the time she was done, I was over at the Killer Instinct machine, just breaking a sweat, getting frustrated,
Yeah.
trying to remember all my super moves.
I don't remember that game.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
If you can figure out combos, which I couldn't, I just button mash.
Yeah.
You win. You feel pretty good about yourself.
Well, we should look at that for an episode, because there's so much shit to
I think
talk
that's a
about.
great idea.
That'd be real fun, because like new games, like even the covers, it's all like photorealistic and it's like a beautiful painting. But back then it was like, make these 11 rectangles a bird and then make it look fun.
Yeah, there was actually one artist who started, I can't remember how, I'll have to look it up, but I remember watching a whole thing about him. He started doing all the covers for NES, like all these games, any sort of game that you saw that had this like really beautiful painted character, almost looked like a movie
Yeah.
art, that was the same person.
Okay, like
But
Contra.
Contra, Metal
was
Gear.
gnarly. Yeah.
I think Bayou Billy was in his repertoire.
That was when I was a kid. It was always out for rent when we'd go rent video games, and it's all I wanted to play. So it's like Crocodile Dundee, and you're just like, and it's terrible.
Oh, it's
I
awful.
finally, but not that I would ever tell my parents, "Oh, I'm not enjoying this game." So I just like played it for like 30 hours straight to be like, "Well, I have nothing else to do. We live in the middle of nowhere."
But when you're also young, you think that if you beat the first level on some games, like that's the end of the game. You beat the game.
Yeah.
That's so dumb.
And then if you do beat it and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, you have to leave the machine running. And then I would like take the cushions off the couch and sleep on the ground beside the machine to make sure nobody came and turned it off.
Or did you ever put anything in front of the red light to make sure that?
Yeah, my body, my entire sleeping child body.
So nobody would be like, oh, they left it on. I'll turn it off for them.
Yeah. Speaking of new ideas for a podcast, and then take away the new ideas for and just podcast. My favorite artist of all time, Mike Giant, released a podcast. Like he's on like his 15th episode or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to the first one last week, and what an artist he is. Because this dude is like on his Instagram everywhere. He's just all day smoking weed. And he is a goddamn fried potato. Like when he talks, like the last one he's talking to an artist, Jeremy Fish, who does super, super cool stuff. They just did a collaboration show together. And every recording, it sounds like they're inside of an abandoned grain silo. Mike Giant is like 12 feet from the microphone, just smoking weed. And he starts it off. He goes, yeah, so normally I just like ask people where they're from and stuff. So go ahead and start there. And then you could hear him like light a joint. So yeah, if you enjoy echoey recordings and go nowhere discussions, it's pretty funny just because he's such like a exploded firecracker. But he did a two part episode with Killer Mike from Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
Thinking that's the first one I listened to. I was like, okay, well, it's going to go for a bit and then be like, hey, and then check us out next time. The recording just stopped. And then episode 2, I played it and it just started from the last word, which makes me wonder why they split it into 2. Because there was like absolutely no reason to. Anyway, yeah, so check out the Mike Giant podcast. And then check out his art if you haven't, because he's a very talented man who's also colorblind, which explains why it's all black and white.
But it's really nice.
Yeah, and he went to school as like an architect for 4 years or something.
But yeah, he posted a lot. Well, I mean, I don't know if he still does, but for a while there, every video on Instagram was just him. It's just a video of himself smoking a joint,
weed.
and you're like,
yep.
Why am I watching this?
No, it hasn't stopped. He just puts it on like the stories now.
Yeah.
And then it'll be him like, I'm riding my bike, smoking a joint, petting my dog, smoking a joint, rolling a joint while smoking a joint. And listen to any of the podcasts and just enjoy a true like Space Lord. No, is that from Guardians of the Galaxy?
That's Star-Lord?
Star-Lord. All right, Space Lord. I didn't want to accidentally. No,
that's the president's
now I'm thinking
choice.
Now I'm thinking of that Monster Magnet song, Space Lord, and then they had that radio edit where they went mother instead of motherfucker. If anyone has a Monster Magnet tattoo, please send it in, because you're the only one in your special and you should be recognized.
I don't think there's anything worse than seeing a great movie on cable TV and then hearing the first swear is edited.
Yeah.
You go, I can't watch this.
No.
What's the point?
Yeah.
You might as well just not show any of it.
No, it's well, what do they do now? It's just kind of, they go like woo, 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 woo. It's like they don't even
sometimes before they used to put more effort into it. So like in Die Hard, they would say when he calls 911.
Yeah.
It's like, sir, this is for emergencies only. And he goes, you think I'm trying to order a freaking pizza?
Freaking. One thing I will say in that is Tenacious D recorded, like they had that Rise of the Phoenix album years ago.
Yeah.
They recorded a clean version
Really?
Like they changed the songs completely to be clean, and it's like
like Chief Wiggum style.
yeah, like instead of in the roadie song, instead of like hey can I suck a your dick, it's like hey can I lick a your pit, and they just made it like super dumb. And it's the best because my daughter's favorite band is Tenacious D, and now there's like an entire album she can listen to front to back. Because all the other ones have to be like listen and be like, no, can't do that one. Not so I throw all the safe ones on her playlist, but now she has this entire one.
Is that the one with no? Rise of the Phoenix doesn't have cock push-ups. That's an earlier
No, that's
one.
the first one.
Yeah.
Rise of Phoenix had like, Senorita. It's like a Spanishy song.
Right.
It's
Well,
good. Yeah. Roadie, and the video for Roadie has a Foot Fist Way guy,
Danny
McBride.
Yeah.
Not Danny Ferry, who I thought of yesterday, played for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 90s and had a little mullet, and he looked like a unborn baby. He excelled. So yeah, one quick thing I wanted to show you, and we'll post this up on the episode page too for this. I guess you call it an episode.
Do you have the Grammarly plugin running?
Yep.
Cannot believe you.
It is good because when I send like a professional email, I just like copy it and no, like that suggests in browser like, hey, add a comma. Like if I'm writing emails and stuff like
Right.
that. And then I have the Grammarly app. You can take like a whole giant thing you wrote and paste it in, and it's like fix this. It's actually pretty good.
Shit.
Grammarly, it used to be very annoying to use, but it's good now. We're not sponsored by them, but we could be if they cared to.
Do they charge?
There's like a premium level where we can be like word usage and tone, and it can like really soup it up.
Cool.
But I just use the high school education level because that's what I have. So one last thing I'm gonna bring up. I was looking for a new typeface for like a project there last week or something like that. Came across a typeface called Daughter. Now, when you click on the typeface called Daughter, you don't assume that the first thing you see is this giant photo of, I hope she's of age, this girl leaning up against the wall in her underwear. And it says modern font, bold and beautiful. And it's by this guy, The Routine Creative. And I can only hope he's sterile because this is just too upsetting. It's just, it could have named it anything else. It could have named it like next door neighbor or like lady that works at the store.
Is there a description? Like if you scroll, why isn't one of the frequently asked questions, why did you name it that? No reviews, nothing else.
No.
I was kind of hoping that there would be some sort of surprise, like this is dedicated to my daughter.
Yeah.
But even that would be weird.
Yeah. So we'll post a link on the worstdesignshow.com.
Don't go buy it.
No, don't buy it at all. Just leave a comment and ask why he named it that. It's The Routine Creative.
Is that other
Richmond,
one there?
Virginia.
Is that other one there? The Valentina? Is that a dead person?
Valentina. Yeah.
That one's called Wife with the dead person.
Yeah. Now it's just me and daughter. Yeah. There's definitely a dead woman in this one. Young, radiant, and beautiful. Oh, he just has a. He's got a whole thing. So yeah, The Routine Creative. Shout out for your bravery, your single vision, and your.
I mean, I'm not
photo.
a father, but I'm guessing he's not because he named it Daughter and chose that picture.
It's got to be. Yeah. Anyway, go check it out on the site. It's disgusting, and everyone should see it. So back in a minute. Thank you for your patience and enjoying that lovely musical break.
At some point, I promise we'll have different music for the breaks.
Okay.
At some point, once
A promise made is a promise kept.
I'm gonna add it to my calendar.
So today, we're talking about design jobs. Everybody's had a ton of different ones. I haven't I've had a couple. I've had a bunch of different like varieties of clients and bosses and all that kind of stuff, but only a few traditional jobs.
What would you consider traditional though?
Like have a boss, go to work,
Get paid every 2 weeks.
yeah.
Right.
Like if the building's on fire, you're like, I'll just work from home next week. Somebody else will pay for this, that kind of thing. But yeah, so we're going to be getting into all of that stuff because I know people listening have probably had 10,000 permutations of a job, and maybe they're in one they dig now, or they're bombed on their job, or they're actively looking for one and they're freaking out because it's almost like halfway through the month and it's like, shit, I got bills, I got whatever. So we're going to be talking about that. We have a few questions from our listeners, as we mentioned before, which is very cool. And so, every week we're going to be posting on Twitter and Instagram at Worst Design Show for both. We're going to be posting the topic we're going to be recording this week, and then asking you to submit whatever stories, thoughts, questions, anything you got, because it just makes it more fun for us. And it gives you a chance to actually ask us shit and see how much we know. It could be a ton. It could be barely anything depending on the topic, but whatever.
Right, because we'll be coming at it from our own perspectives, which can be quite limited sometimes. So that's
and often similar.
It can be, but
let's say it's not a diverse room in many ways.
Just
a couple of cis white men telling you how it is.
So that was a good episode. We'll catch you all
on the flip flop.
On the flippity flop. So how this came up as well is the company that I'm at just recently had to let a bunch of people go. I won't get into any details because that doesn't matter. But dealing with loss of other designers in your department being gone and having to pick up where people left off, or going through that. What that's like and what, how shitty it can be or how okay it can be. So that's kind of how we got to this choice of topic.
Yeah, it was all of the sudden thing. I got a message from Marcus last week. Was it last week?
Yeah, because I had inclinations that something was going down, having been through layoffs at other companies, not design, but when I worked for
the string factory.
For the string factory. When I worked for a major Canadian telecom company, I went through, I think, 2 or 3 layoffs. And so I'd been through it. And so you kind of get an idea of the behavior, the body behavior. No,
body language.
Body
behavior. It pees, it spits, it looks around. It's disgusting.
Be sure to check out my new album, Body Behavior. So the body language of certain people, you catch wind of it before other people do, just from also age too. You just know when shit's going down. So
start at the beginning as much as you can, because the way that it came off to me was so much like that movie Office Space, where they brought in the efficiency experts and why don't you tell me what you do here?
Well, now I've come to find out that person I thought was an auditor isn't an auditor. He was just, not technically, but kind of, because he, from what I understand, did some analysis and financials on the business. I'm not really too sure of the details.
Yeah.
But either way, that's, some of us noticed that this person was in some of our tools.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then, a meeting will be booked, a mandatory all hands, and you have to be there, and there's no agenda.
No.
And it's kind of out of nowhere. It's 9
a.m.
9 a.m. And so you're like, yeah, well, there's my suspicions. And I don't know, you just see the way that certain people are, their language is showing. And you kind of know how they usually are, and you know that something's up, behind closed doors. And just like I said, I've been through it before. But the thing is, at the corporate level, for a larger, huge company that's national, you don't really see any of that. It just happens. So this one I was more privy to seeing it happen. And then, so as soon as I saw the meeting, the agenda or the calendar invite, that's when I was like, okay, got to get all my shit off of this account into my personal Dropbox just in case. Be prepared for anything, because if you're let go, you are immediately locked out of every account, or at least that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So you lose access, and for a lot of the stuff that we do, we're using Figma, which is relying on your work email address.
Yeah, so you're exporting all your...
Yeah, so just getting all that, making sure everything's in order, making sure I have everything I need just in case.
And those of you who don't know, Figma is like a better version of Sketch.
Yes.
If you don't know what Sketch is, then you still design print, and God bless you.
I was, funny enough, I had to edit a PSD file of a web design today. The client said, I need these color changes. And I go, please, God, let these shapes be vectors, or at least not a symbol, but a dropped-in shape from Illustrator.
Like a smart object?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully it was, so it was easy enough to do by selecting all objects with the same fill and recoloring. But at the same time, anyways, it's old school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so 9 a.m. camera. Well, when I left the day before, I had texted you to put the feelers out just in case, because you just never know what's going to happen. And it's good to, it's like the old saying, you don't have to be faster than a bear, you just have to be faster than the other person.
Yeah.
It's like that. You just had to get out in front before other people.
Yeah.
So that's what I was counting in my head. And then when I left that day, I looked at my teammates and I said, see you tomorrow for the guillotine. And then realized I said it really loud. Turned around, everybody's looking. I was like, oh shit. And I was like, so I felt bad, and I turned and I'm sorry. And we're all thinking that, right? And everybody kind of felt it a little bit. We're suspicious. So the next day, 9:00, like basically I didn't do any work after that invite went out.
Yeah.
And then so after 9:00,
because there may be no point to it.
Exactly. Yeah. So after 9:00 and stuff went down, and I got to keep my job, but I was prepared to if I wasn't, and so we had a few designers let go. And
what was the reason? Like I know stuff happened at the company where there's new people around and all that. Is it like a restructuring? Is it like cleaning house? Is it like we're bringing in other people?
No, it's, I mean, in terms of like decisions of who to let go, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. As part of the actual business of things, I can't get into it.
Yeah.
Just because if anybody did any investigating on my name to find out, they would find out. But so I won't talk about that at all.
No, but I was curious if outside people were brought in, or if it was just like a slimming of the team.
No, it wasn't like outsiders were brought in like that sense. And I think it was a situation where a lot of companies can get into, but this is just my thought is like, you deal with more stuff and you think that the solution is to throw more people at a problem instead of just working with what you've got and building it slowly. But that's just what I think. I could be totally wrong. Yeah. But like why I was kept over other people, I don't know.
Blackmail.
Totally.
Compromising photos of
could
the CEO knifing homeless people on the weekend like American Psycho.
Exactly. You could think, like I said, I don't know exactly why, but it could be maybe other people were getting paid more. But it's hard to say, or maybe it's because, if you think about it, and this is a leading into a whole other topic of being a more versed, rounded designer who wears multiple hats that go sideways. Yeah. So I know we talked about this before. I mentioned it before of like, I can do some video editing, audio stuff, 3D stuff, kind of a little bit of everything. Yeah. And that, to me, it feels like that keeps you safer in a position of design. Yeah. You create more value for yourself, because if somebody making that decision is looking at everyone like, who has more value if we got rid of one or the other? Like if we got rid of this person, we now have no one who can do any of this.
Yeah.
If we got rid of that person, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I've seen that in companies that I've either worked with like as a client, and they had a design team or whatever, or worked directly with people. And when you've been doing what I do for as long as I've done it, which is like almost 20 years now, which is fucking weird. But yeah, I mean, we like, if it came down to it, you and I could code.
I did the other day.
Like, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be beautiful. It would work.
I had to look up a bunch of stuff on Stack Overflow, but I got through it and I shipped off like a little mini site to a client. I was like, here you go. You don't need your developer to do this.
Yeah, like for the people that can sketch out a concept on paper and have it look like a real thing while choosing Pantones, while coding, while using Figma, while using Illustrator, while doing all the shit while selling work to clients, while booking new work. I kind of think we're like an old school thing in that, like, a lot of people like, I want to be a UI designer. It's like, great. What are you going to do the other like 3 days of the week when the design's done and we need a branding done or something?
This is how I feel about this illustration trend that you see on every site.
You mean the people that use Illustrator?
No, it's like if you go to a lot of marketing sites, you see the same sort of illustrations of like people.
Oh, like
Slack.
Like how everybody was like, hey, look at Slack. And then everybody made everything purple and had fucking people with floating coffee cups.
But then Slack's moved away from that and actually used pictures of people again. But anyways, so all these illustrators, like, is that all that they do? And how do you, there's no way to keep work if that's all you do, because your skill set's so narrowed. So you have to be doing, like, I know that
everyone's copying each other now.
Right. So, and I know like in the Valley of Silicon.
Cowichan? No.
Like Cowichan Valley, the tech hub of San Francisco. So I know that companies like Lyft and Facebook and Uber, they hire, and Dropbox too, MailChimp too, they hire illustrators. Great. But if that's the only place you can work as an illustrator and do it, that's it, then that's really sad. But what happens when the illustrator fad is gone?
Oh, then
they're out of jobs.
Yeah, I mean, when I was mentioning before, working with people that may only do one thing, and when I'm doing like 12 different things, and I'm like, hey, we need you to do like the UI design or something like that. They'll be like, I actually only do branding. I'm like, oh, that's weird because I'm better at it than you are, and I do tons of shit. Mm-hmm. So why don't you like pick up a hammer and pitch in and stop pretending that what you do is unique? Because what you do is common.
Yeah.
Your shitty attitude is unique. And just get to work. I mean, there are so many people that just stop progressing. Either they think, I don't need to learn anymore because I'm comfortable in what I can do. Or they're the people like, I only do this one thing. And granted, there are people that say, I only do black and white logos, and say that was like a specialty. If you're amazing at them and you're one of the first people to do them, then fuck yeah, you're going to make a ton of money because you're the best at that one thing. Like Aaron Draplin, great designer, personable dude, and he seems like a nice guy and all that, but now everybody rips off his style. Like, he thought of, I like old school, thick-lined, old patches and all that kind of shit. Like, everybody kind of does. They have like a soft spot for him. And he's like, I'm going to capitalize on my love for it. I'm going to turn it into a career. Mm-hmm. And he did great. He had tons of experience doing a lot of other stuff, like snowboard, magazine layouts, and all this stuff. But unless you're really the first to do it, like, I'm sure the person that illustrated the Slack website that everybody bid off, I'm sure that person made a shit ton of money because they're probably one of the best to do it.
Sure.
And then because Slack can't afford it, you would think.
Sorry, did you say they can or they can't?
They can. Like,
well, yeah.
They could say, we need the best one. Maybe they had the money and they hired a designer who was also a great illustrator, whatever it was. But when everybody started like biting their style. Oh, I can really hear the seagulls. On Mark Maron's show, there's like you can hear lawnmowers and stuff, whatever. But
I mean, it's definitely like for me, it hasn't come from a point of I don't trust people to do the work. It's come from we don't have somebody to do that. So it's like, okay, well, we've told the client or whoever that we can do it. I guess I'm going to learn.
That's why I've got a lot of white label contracts over the years. They're like, yeah, we booked a client. We said we could illustrate it, or we said we could give them like this really high end like UI design, or we could lay out a book or whatever it is. And then they're like, we actually only have contractors, and the only designer we have only does print shit, but not very well.
Right.
And then you get called in as a white label designer, and then you just handle it for them. But that's a great point. Amazing how many companies book work without having people to do it.
Oh yeah.
Not just like resources, like we have great people, but we don't have enough of them to do the work. They will book work knowing that they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that to me is knowing a bunch of companies in town and outside of our city, knowing companies that have like folded.
Mm-hmm.
Were the ones that did that trying to keep up with the times, but their prices were too high because they were like a big agency and the work was just mediocre at best. They overpromised, underdelivered. They didn't have anything special other than their network, and they just folded. Like there's one company in town, they shut down a few years ago. I don't even remember what they're called anymore. Anyway, they moved offices to like this. Oh, it's called Copeland. They used to have offices downtown, and it was kind of like one of the bigger ad agencies, kind of the old school model.
Right.
And they moved to a smaller office, and they were interviewed by like the paper here, asking like, hey, so you guys moved, like how are you doing in these modern times? And I'm probably quoting it terribly, but they essentially, the gist of it that I got was, it's really hard in this modern economy. Clients aren't paying what they used to for projects.
Right.
And then a month later they shut their doors. So if you were one of their clients that stayed with them, and you read the owner complaining that, and I could be wrong about this too, this is what I remember from it was, yeah, our clients don't pay as much money as they used to pay us, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And then a month later they close. If I was one of the clients, I'd be like, well, fuck, I can pay you $0. You're not giving me anything that I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that can also cause people to lose jobs too, is when like the machine is too big to change or too old to change. Mm-hmm. And then all these like anybody that's listening that freelances or started their own little company and it turned big or stayed small, you know that you need an email account and like design tools and some kind of accounting software, and that's it to start a business. Yeah. So these old ones like used to have, you know, these crazy networks. Like I know the guy that owns the Chevy dealership and the lady that owns the hotel, and like you had to have these like handshake connections, and then you had to know the people down at the print house, and you had to like have all this big fucking equipment.
It's also figuring out who your client is, because I know there's a bunch of agencies in town that just do local work.
Yeah.
And there's a market for that, for sure. And it's smaller paying, but it's work.
Smaller paying and more headache, because like $10,000 clients are a pain in the ass, but one $100,000 client is as much of a pain in the ass as one of the other smaller clients, but you just have one of them. You just make more money. But when you live in a city that doesn't pay $100,000 contracts, you're sustaining off of like 15 and then like a $5,000 one, and then like if a $40,000 one comes along, it's like, oh, this is really, really good, but there's not a ton of them. And especially with the way our jobs work now, why couldn't they hire somebody in Chicago or Toronto or whatever? Like you don't have to look in your backyard anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, you work for a larger company, like just a lot of people, not as many as there used to be. Insensitivity is fun. But like I've worked for I worked for a small company. I was a small company for a long time. Now I work for a larger company. What are your thoughts of working for a small company versus a big company? Like, I know I feel more secure in a larger company, but I feel like I don't know what's going on at any moment with the company, which is a little distressing, but only because I used to have my own and I used to have to know everything. Now I can only know nothing.
Yeah.
And I get curious.
Totally. So I like the scrappiness of a smaller model. It's fun that way. You kind of you're at tooth and nail for every penny.
Yeah.
But being with a bigger company, yeah, it's a bit more comforting to have, or to just know, like, things will always be there, and benefits are always a good thing. But
until one day when there's a 9 a.m. meeting called and there's no agenda, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Because there's that disconnect. Like,
true.
You're not in conversation.
So that's one thing where, like, I'm different from you, where I have an easier time disconnecting that concern, or I don't know what's going on, and it doesn't concern me.
Yeah.
Because having worked for another larger-ish tech company here, I just learned to put trust in the people that were leading it, and to give them I trust that you're in a position to guide the company in the direction it should go, and to always be moving it forward instead of just sitting on what you have. And so I don't even think about that, but I never was in a position like you, where you had the business going for years at that level.
Yeah. I mean, when you said there's like scrappiness and all that, and it's like lively, and like the highs are really high because you did 100% of it. It's just like we all pitched in, and like a lot of long nights, and like that banding together, and it's like you get a good vibe and a strong team, but then you can't sustain that forever.
No, because
working 18 hours a day for 15 years, like I pretty much did, like you're fried.
Yeah.
Like you're a Mike Giant on a podcast, just being like, man, sometimes we talk about like light bulbs, like it's crazy, right? Like you're gone.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, there's a weird swing, like the having to have a handle on every part of the company is really stressful. Like working for a small company, I think working for a small company looks like a lot more fun than running a small company.
Yes.
Because you get that scrappiness, you get that, like, the Friday beers, big high fives when shit goes good. Everyone pulls together when things are tough.
Well,
but then you get to go home and somebody's like, fuck, how are we paying for anybody that just put in an extra 20 hours this week? We don't even have enough money to pay their normal paycheck.
Yeah, so that's where situations arise where they get paid and you don't.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I have to sacrifice this week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there were times where I paid all the contractors and all the bills and all that, and then just like, well, it's a good thing kids don't eat a lot because they're very little.
Good thing craft dinner is cheap.
Yeah, except unless you're like us and vegans. And then you have to get old school rice and beans and make your own, which is actually cheaper. But
yeah, it's definitely different mentality, and over time, I think you'll see the way to kind of not think about it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the company I worked for last year, it was much more like close to the bone, where I could feel a lot of the tension or a lot of the success that management was going through, just because we're a small team. I'm like right outside their office, and I can hear them have like tough phone calls or whatever. And the hard thing for me was not just jumping in and being like, hey, I'll get on the phone, I can straighten this out, because that's what I'm used to doing. Yeah. So like trusting them to handle it, which they did. They were great at it. But just that, like, letting go of that part of it was hard. And in a way, it made me really bored. But in another way, I didn't miss that stress at all.
No.
And then the boredom turned into like, oh, I can just get my work done. And then after that, being part of like a smaller mid-range company, when you're juggling like 12 clients at a time. It's like, oh fuck, this is like my company. Like
Yeah.
we have to take on too much. And then all of a sudden I'm refusing to work overtime because I did it for myself for too long. And I'm seeing like we're taking on too much. And I think you have this as well, where I can't just kind of just half-ass it to get it out the door.
To a point.
Yeah.
At some point I do live by the motto, it's better done than perfect.
Or like, don't let perfect get in the way of good. I like that one.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get it out the door and be like, we'll come back to it in phase 2.
Like when the client says, what about the About Us page? You're like, oh, fuck, yeah. And just like paragraph photo. Let's put the photo in a circle and keep it in the columns and you're done. Like, I don't mind that, but it's like when the big branding or packaging, illustrative, like I put tons of research and like a lot of consultation with the client in it. And I hate when that part gets chopped out for budgetary reasons, because they still want the work, but you just know it won't be good.
Yeah.
Or it won't be as good. It won't be as correct as it should have been.
I think we're similar in the sense that if I'm working on something for a client, I want to have the inner workings or the knowledge of the origins, the middle, the worst, the highs, the lows, the passion of it.
Yeah.
To give me that motivation to feel the same way as if I was an employee.
Yeah.
And when it's rejected, they're like, no, we're good. It's kind of disheartening.
Yeah.
And you feel like, well, I'm just now a pencil pusher. Not a pencil pusher, but you know what I mean.
Don't say pixel pusher.
Nope.
'Cause that's stupid.
Because I wouldn't.
A pixel pushing pirate
With
wizard.
Fuck that shit. Fucking, if you describe anyone as a design wizard, you shouldn't write.
Then you're a goddamn wizard.
Yeah, you're a wizard.
You're a wizard.
So with layoffs for designs, it's given me the experience now, of which I haven't done for a long time, is jumping into somebody else's design files, having
that's rough stuff.
Having no knowledge really of anything that's happened. Well, a tiny little bit, but none of the decisions, none of the discussions with the developers, stuff like that. And so it's not as bad as it used to be, where you'd be like, okay, which file is the most recent file?
Yeah.
And is everything in here? So at least Figma has that advantage. But I jumped in one today. I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is laid out. Which file is the file I should be going from? And how is it set up? And then that's where you see like, oh, you forget that other people do it differently than you do.
They do it wrong.
And you feel it's so who did this? I would never do it like this. This is so disorganized. Were they drunk?
Why do you have 3 shades of medium gray? You're basically
I
don't know, what's a bad thing?
I was exploring colors for a while.
I don't know why I'm blanking. I keep wanting to say Nazi, but it's not that extreme. Like someone that like watches dog fights. That's just like
Football player?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Football player. So it's like you're just living your life incorrectly.
Right.
When it's like, oh well, we need all these shades. I'm like, they are like imperceptible to the eye. They're the same color. You know you're there, or they're there, but it's also not a global color. You don't have symbols like established. Like it's just a nightmare. So yeah, I like my files. I don't like other files because other people make them.
Yeah.
And file naming is another thing. We should get in one episode about like how to keep your shit organized.
Yes, I've got a method that's been working for me for a while.
Yeah.
And the way that I organize everything just makes sense to me. But
yep.
I mean, with layoffs too and covering other people, it's happened at the other job, the telecom. You know, you pick up the slack for
that's a big company.
Yeah, you pick up the slack for the missing people for a while, and it sucks, but you get through it. And one thing
you get through it because you got to keep your job.
You did.
Yeah.
Some people get survivor's guilt, which I can understand.
Yeah.
You're like, why me over that person? When you feel like, oh, that maybe they're more qualified than me. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, don't worry about other people then.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, I try not to.
worry about yourself. But I think some people will take it harder than others because they see, and this is also me with age, and I'm not as social as other people, but people will view it as they've lost friends.
Yeah, fuck that.
And a lot of the people I've worked with over the years, like I don't call them up, I don't text them, but if I see them on the street, I'll say hi if we make eye contact. But it's like,
if they spot you after you put on your hat and your sunglasses and cross the street, like I do, you're like, oh shit, I know that person. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, there's something about, like, I tell my oldest kid, like I'll ask, like, hey, when you were in high school, like, what were your friends like? Or like, what were girls like? Or just like, he's curious about whatever. And I've been telling him forever, like, so much of the friend base you have right now, and if there's a girl you're interested in, or if there's like a team you want to be on or whatever, like anything you're feeling right now, it's just based on things in your proximity.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, I really enjoy this person at work, and then you go and have a beer with them, you're like, oh, like,
well, that's the thing, is
it's
like,
just, we just don't connect when we're not in it.
Totally. So a perfect example would be if you have employees that work together, they get along fine, like there's nothing wrong, they're just two different people. But if it was a choice of, let's go for a drink after work, one might choose a cocktail bar, and the other one's like, where's the nastiest dive bar?
Yeah.
And then that's where you go,
I want to hang out with Matt and Marcus.
So that's where you go, okay, these are great people, but I probably won't hang out with them after this happens. And you kind of move on, and some people definitely like linger on it longer.
But when you think about it too, the amount of time you spend with these people.
Oh yeah, you're there like
with these people is far more than you spend with your friends.
Exactly.
Anyway, so it's kind of like, I think we've said it all. Like, and I'll see you on Monday, and I'll enjoy talking to you. But like,
it's also
we kind of like left it all on the table at work, and we don't have a shit. Like, I have nothing more to ask you about gardening. I'm out.
But not only that, it's like if we spent, it's say 8 hours a day, 5 days a week together, that doesn't make you friends.
No.
It makes you coworkers.
Yeah.
That you work with and everything's great, but it doesn't automatically make everyone you work with friends.
No. So speaking about like when people go and they're like, oh, like I'm not going to be with my friends every day. That is one person's opinion of not working somewhere anymore. With me, like, I'm curious how we would compare, and if we both lost our jobs tomorrow, like what's the first thing you would do?
Depending on the severance, that would really make a difference.
Yeah.
I might do an office space and just do nothing for a while.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes what you need to do.
Gut and trout. And
but if it was a situation where it's like, okay, either no severance or it was a small amount, then I just start immediately looking for a job, getting back out there, talking to people. Like, you got to do what you got to do to pay your bills and make rent. And you might have to take a job at a design place you don't like or don't really want to work there, but you have to for a while.
Yeah.
You just got to, it's like any job though. You got to make things work and just get out there and do it.
So if it happened for you tomorrow and say the severance was enough for, like, you could comfortably look for a job for a month before you really start like pissing yourself and saying, okay, I really need to like get more paychecks rolling in. Like, if you had a semi-comfortable month to find a new job, where's the first place you would look for one? Because I'm sure there's lots of people listening that are just hitting like Glassdoor or whatever, like all these sites, which
I don't think they'll have any problem, because within the day of it happening, I had 2 recruiters on LinkedIn contacting me.
Oh.
And since then I've had a few more. It's because they have no idea who's there and who's not, and so they're just playing the numbers game and just blanketing everybody. And I replied to one just saying, like, I know it's the tactic here. I get it, but, you know, I have a job, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know where I'd start. Some people have looked. Some people have reached out on social media. So, like, hey, everybody I know, is there anybody looking for a job, or do you want to work with me?
Yeah.
Which seems to be a good place to start. I don't know. I don't really know where I'd start. I haven't even thought about that.
So I did like a year and a half ago, something like that, is when I like was done with my company called Bully, which is, we used to record the podcast in that office and drank lots of beer in there. It was a good place.
Yeah.
So
as listeners of the 20 people who listen to the show will notice, there's been way less pee breaks.
Yeah.
We're actually drinking sparkling water. Was this President's Choice?
Yeah.
Blue Menu. Mandarin.
Trump's preference.
Orange, yeah.
So when I shut the company down, what I did, and it was partially, primarily because I was just like bummed on it and I didn't want to work for anybody else, and I was just like not feeling it. What I actually did is I wrote an article on Medium just about what happened and like how it made me reevaluate kind of what I want out of a career. If I can't have the company, then what out of all the things I can have do I want? And then what I found is I wrote that, I posted it, I redesigned my whole site, I put up all my work samples and all that. Then I just went on all the job posting sites like Lever and Glassdoor, and there's like Monster and all that. And they're all fine. A lot of them are like Geotechnical Thermal Industries is looking for a freelance observation designer to guide our preference. Like it's all these buzzwords, and like they're trying to make it seem technical.
Did you ever hit those postings that were looking for a degree?
No.
Oh, some of them will do that where, like, say it's a UI designer or brand designer, they want to do like an art degree or a computer science degree, and you're like, no, it's not even. I mean, granted, that's a whole other debate of credentials in our industry, but
I totally disregard that because I've been doing it for like 20 years. I didn't go to school for it. I don't think it's held me back at all because finding a job isn't that tough when you have a lot of work behind you. And you present yourself well and all that. So I started hitting up like all these job posting sites and really having like super mixed success, not with like applying, with finding good postings. Like a lot of them were like, you have to relocate to Montreal. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, have a family. I fucking hate winter. And from what I hear, Montreal has a lot of winter. So I didn't want to take a job that I was possibly going to enjoy less and also live in a place that I didn't want to live in.
Right.
So there's a lot of like weighing that. So then it's like looking for remote jobs, and then it opens up to a lot of jobs in the US. Now, what I found out about that, well, one thing I knew beforehand, but what I found later on after speaking to a few companies is 1 week vacation for the first year is standard.
Ooh.
There's like no like medical is, because you're in Canada, they don't even consider it anyway. They're like, you handle your own stuff. It's cheaper up there anyway. But one big consideration I had was the fluctuation of income. So Canada's dollar is traditionally worth less than American dollars. So if you get a job for, $60,000 US, you're making about 75,000 Canadian, just it kind of goes around like that. So, which is good when things are good. Mm-hmm. But if like America lets that big fat orange guy like nosedive it into the Mount Rushmore, and their currency fluctuates as such that Canada's dollar is worth more, well, then you could take a $20,000, $30,000 a year hit on your income in exchange rate.
I mean, there was that year when our dollar was par or just a little bit above.
Yeah.
It was the glory days, and that's gone. But
Yeah.
it could happen again.
But it's a consideration because then you'd have to be like, hey, guys, I have to quit. Not because you're paying me less. It's because I'm getting less money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shitty situation to be in because then all of a sudden all U.S. remote opportunities are off the table.
Yeah.
Because you're making less. So what I did is I, applied to a few places, got a few offers, both from American companies. This was like a year and a half ago. I decided to go with a local company just because I didn't really want to work.
How did you find them though?
They found me.
Well,
my friend Lee Phrase, who I think has listened to this before. You met him.
Yep.
Lee, yeah, we watched a Metallica concert on
the computer?
Yeah.
From the
it's called The
Vans.
Computer in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. So Lee worked for this company. He contacted, I posted like, hey, I'm looking for a position. Here's my Medium article. Check out my site, that kind of thing. And then I think he told the folks running the show, they contacted me and it just worked out. And yeah, very nice people and worked there for like a year. And then my idea of what I wanted changed. So then I changed positions with another company. But what I found was in writing that Medium article, doing anything kind of genuine, like writing a cover letter with like a fully designed whatever your style is, like just like if it takes you like a half hour to write it and to kind of lay it out nice and just kind of do something unique. Like I would take the company's logo that I'm applying for. I would find like an SVG on the site, something I could bring into Illustrator and scale and make it look nice and all that. And then like write out like, hey, I really like your work you did with this and did with that and did with that. I also have similar experience in this, and this, and this. And like just taking a half hour to personalize it, it went such a long way. Because I got contacted by so many companies who are like, hey, like, thanks for taking the time to actually check our site out. I was like, well, I wouldn't try to work for you unless I'd at least read what you had to present.
Yeah. Last year or the year before, something like that, I was part of some of the hiring process for the designers at the time. And we were using Workable. And so
is that like a job posting?
Yeah, but then people can just like search Workable for jobs and just post. And 99% of them were garbage because either they didn't post a portfolio or any work, or the resume that they attached. Oh yeah, hold on. So I got weird standards and issues with the resumes and applying, and it comes from being 15 and looking for a job and being told how to find a job and finding one immediately because I was told what to do and say. Anyways, so you'd get cover letters that would be like, dear sir or madam. It's like, well, take 5 minutes to look on LinkedIn or wherever to see who's in that department. And then the resumes, you would be so shocked, but not shocked, to see how many resumes people still use, like listing their skills off and then giving it number ratings or like levels.
70% proficiency with fucking typography, like
so that was
based on what, by who?
Very cool.
Shut up.
10 years ago?
Nope, wasn't cool then, but it was prevalent 10 years ago.
And I was just blown away by how many people still use it and thought that it was a thing to do.
Well, and what I fucking hate this is when they do like proficiency with Illustrator, proficiency with grid layouts, all this kind of stuff. Then be like, 80 cups of coffee drank per month. It's like, I don't care. Shut up. Like, you could have put a cool picture there or just left it blank and let us all appreciate the negative space, you fucking narcissist, as I realize the irony of us speaking in microphones. It's a free show. It's not mandatory. But the amount of people, when I was running Bully, that my wife and we would field these emails with people applying to stuff. And the worst ones were the ones that are like, hey, it's your lucky day. Like blah, blah, blah from New York is contacting you and giving you the opportunity to get like a superstar or a fucking rock star or whatever, hang yourself to death nonstop. But adding this like rock star to your team. And then my wife would like show it to me and I would look at her and say, oh, just go after him. And she'd be like, dear idiot. And just like, she's very eloquent and very smart. And she's a writer. And so she would go on this like 8-day back and forth with these people. They had no idea that it just fueled her. She loved it. It was just like, she really wanted to be a lawyer, and she should have been one, because fucking, she likes to argue and she's smart. And there's one went on for like 8, 9, 10 days. Just every day they would message each other like, well, you know what? It's people like you that blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, all right, you got to end it, because this is actually interfering with work now. Mm-hmm. And you just have to go away. So they ended that. And then we had this other guy who called himself like a pixel ninja or whatever fucking stupid thing he thought he was. My wife checked out his Facebook page, and like, because like anybody that applies, anybody's going to research the shit out of them before they even
should.
So this guy had, I think he was dressed as like a Pegasus. He had like a makeup and stuff on, and he had like his tattoos, his like tribal tattoos showing. And it's like these hyper stylized photos of him like holding like a damsel, but he's like dressed like a Pegasus. Mm-hmm. And we still talk about those photos. Unfortunately, the guy didn't land the position, because there's no way.
I thought you were going to say he died.
You know.
Unfortunately, he died before we could hire him.
That's fine. But like, I honestly told my lady, it's like, I can't, like, plus his work was like very mediocre, and he talked it up like it was amazing, but just because you figured out how to fucking kern a little bit doesn't mean you're amazing. It just means that you made the little boxes move on your computer. So I said, I don't know what people's expectation is for, if they're looking for a job, not thinking that these people are going to be researching them. And then if they do, they're like, oh, of course they'll find my Pegasi photo of me rescuing the damsel, and then I assume mating with his Pegasus wiener. But it's really like, I couldn't hire somebody knowing that when they go home, they turn into a Pegasus, because it's the kind of thing you shouldn't bring up at work. But I couldn't not. And then I'd be like, I will only be a negative spot in this person's life because they dress up like a Pegasus on Facebook.
I feel like, was your dad killed by a Pegasus?
No, it's going to be probably high blood pressure.
Here's hoping.
But yeah, so looking for a job, my recommendation is, well, me being on the hiring and the hiree end of it, do something genuine for that company. Mm-hmm. Whether it feels like you're overdoing it or whatever, like Mark says, like, research, okay, who's head of HR? Be like, hey, Kathy, which in my head is any person that works
even
in
if
HR
it
named
goes
Kathy.
To the wrong person, it's still somebody who's there.
Hey, Kathy, last name, or hiring committee.
Yeah.
That's it. And the person's like, oh, how do they know Kathy? Or be like, oh, well, it's on LinkedIn or whatever. And then just take a minute to like show that your work is thorough by doing thorough work applying to a job, because it's not detached from work. If the quality of your application is shit, then I'm going to assume the quality of your work is shit.
Well, it's also just humanizing.
Yeah.
If I can't meet you face to face as a first interaction, then you should humanize whatever you're writing or presenting.
Yeah, and what you're doing when you're looking for a job is you're branding yourself.
Yeah.
So give yourself every consideration that you would give a client. If the consideration you give a client is just a cookie cutter approach, then I don't know, fucking learn how to like place traffic cones or something, because like the industry takes a lot of heart, and people looking to hire people look for heart and talent and dedication and like honesty.
Yeah.
So be that, and then you'll find people that are kind of like-minded.
When my first design job, I don't even remember how I found it, but I just when I finished schooling, which was mostly for development, and I know we talked about that a lot in season 1.
Yeah.
But I can't remember where I found the job postings. I just applied for all of them. as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then got one. So I don't even, since then I haven't had to, but I imagine it should be easier now to find jobs.
Yeah. In the 2 times I had to look for them in the past year and a bit, I get really stressed out because I like control, and just the waiting to hear back and all that drives me insane. But finding the jobs was not difficult. And I think because the work I've done is super diverse, like I've done everything that comes along, and I try to put as much care into it as the other thing. And if the client's like, hey, do you know how to do this? I'm like, I've never done it before. I'm pretty sure I can figure it out.
Well, that's the thing too, is if your offering is broad enough and you present it to a company and they look at it and go, we don't do that, but maybe we could. Yeah. Then there you go. You instantly become valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like one thing that you should be able to demonstrate too is just like your comprehension of like written pieces. Like if you know you're not a good writer, write something out, hire somebody on like Fiverr or fucking whatever, or use Grammarly, Grammarly.com, and just clean up your dumb language. Because while you think you may be like clever or whatever, you're probably just being like verbose, going on way too long.
Using $5 words.
If you think you're probably being funny, you're probably not, because...
Oh, just like my intros.
Yeah.
They're 100% not funny. Funny when I wrote them, not funny when I said them.
Oh, like a lead balloon, like the guy on the podcast.
I don't workshop them at all.
No.
Nope.
No, because your method. You live it.
They're on the fucking fly.
So...
Should we jump to questions? How long have we been doing this now?
Hour 25. I thought we could...
I need to keep a timer going.
Wrap a thing up. Then we could do a break.
Yeah.
Then come back and do questions. Yeah. And then wrap it up.
I like it.
All right. So yeah, looking for a job. I gave you all the advice I have.
Get out there, be human.
One thing is just be confident how much money you want. Be confident in what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. If they're be confident and say like, I expect this much vacation, I do whatever. Just if there's stuff you're used to, just flat out ask for it.
Yeah.
It's probably not uncommon. And don't lie on your resume. If you fucking lie, you're gonna get found out. And too many people do that, and that's how a lot of people get. Unfortunately, they don't get fired for it. They just get like, oh, well, they can't really do that, and you're saddling what could be a nice, very nice, good company with a lame employee that they thought they were getting more value than they did. So you're actually, you'll rarely get fired for it, but you'll just be a bummer. And you'll be like, oh, well, he's kind of like the sad loser and he lied. But it's not even that he lied, it's just that he wasn't very good.
And also don't not apply at a company if they don't have the work that you're looking for, because a lot of work is usually under NDA and cannot be shown, and that's usually the most interesting stuff.
Yeah. Or
the bigger stuff. So if you don't know that already, actually, then that's your own fault.
Yeah. Yeah. And make your website look cool.
Yeah. Be original.
Don't say pixel pushing. Don't say anything like
everything's copied of something at this point, but make it you.
Yeah. Unless you're bad, then make it better.
Or when in doubt, just make it text. Just leave it as text.
So all right, we're gonna take a short break and come back with questions. And the Twitter post that I found that
I'm really curious about this.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
I have one thing to share, but we'll get to that afterwards, because it started cool and then it became uncool. Typical me.
All right, see you in a minute. Bye. again for your patience. We were just talking about how the shows are much more focused and short when we're not drinking beer. And funny thing, I am going to start cutting back on beer as I drift into the world of smoking weed.
That's your new thing now?
Only to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And then like maybe one on, like a couple on the weekend to like fire it up a little bit. But
have you figured out your ratio that you prefer?
1 part it and 1 part me.
So close. Not really what I was.
No, I got like because I didn't want to like have the smoke. It just when you have kids around, it just smells like fucking. You can't keep like a half smoke thing in your house, and you can't like you can smell from outside still.
Yeah.
So also it's legal here, and my wife and I always talk about how I'm like in a way like a very Christian young man in that like I hate breaking the law. I would never smoke weed before. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. In the back of my head, it's like, well, this isn't exactly legal. Like, I live by the book in way too many ways. And then they legalized it, and I was like, well, actually, that's not true. When I considered it seriously is in January, I was riding to work on my scooter, not like a Razor scooter, like a 49cc like motored scooter, and I hit a chunk of black ice, and then I smashed my side, and I had severe internal bleeding, which I found out later at the hospital. I went to a meeting all day because it was the second week at the new job that I'm at now, and the boss was coming in to. We're running like a big discovery session for all this branding work we're going to be doing. I'm like, well, I can't bail. So
just like you did that morning.
Yeah. So I went home and I changed. And so I went home, changed, and then I got a cab to work. And then as the day progressed, my side was just getting bigger and bigger. And apparently I was just swelling with blood. And we had like a 6-hour meeting. And then I got up to walk back to my desk, and I almost just like passed out face down into the carpet, and I just kind of staggered. And I was like, whoa, it's got to be related to what's going on my left side. So then went to the emergency room, and yeah, severe internal bleeding. And it was basically like Marcus and I talked about it. I called it my Quato from Total Recall, that little goblin that came out of that man's chest. It was like that, but it was really like you sliced an eggplant in half and just glued it to your side for like 4 months. So I couldn't exercise or do anything. And after like years, I had like horrible knee problems and I couldn't exercise. And I was just like feeling good for the first time. Then I bail. And then I can't do anything for like 4 months. I can't really swim. I can't like run, or I don't even know what I do. But whatever I did, I couldn't do it anymore. And then I started working out again and trying to be healthy like a few weeks ago, because it's at a point now where I can actually do stuff. And I would like exercise all week. And then on the weekends be like, I can fit so much beer in me. And then on Monday, I look at myself, I'm like, that's how you looked at the beginning of last week. You were looking pretty good on Friday until about 4:30 when things started to take a downturn. And I'm like, I guess beer is a lot of calories. It's filling.
It is.
It's delicious.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, mama. But so I'm tempering on like a Friday and Saturday and whatever, buying maybe like a 6-pack. And then as that leaves, and then in the evening and go for a walk to the beach or something like that, and do reefer. And that's what they say. And so yeah, I'm going to try that for a bit. But yeah.
So I live the vape life. Because I
Vape Nation?
I don't want to grind it. I don't want to roll it. It's messy. I'm bad at it. It's like if you just threw weed into a paper bag, that's how tight I could roll it. Like just loose.
Yeah, and just light it on fire and stand over it and breathe.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I do not have that skill.
Yeah, and with me, I'm 39. How many people get really good at something when they're 39? I've never rolled a joint before. There's no way. In my head, I'm like, you're going to be terrible. You're going to waste so much of the pot or the whatever.
I've tried, and they never look as good as my intention.
No. It's the robotic age.
So I actually found 100% CBD
Yeah.
as well. And so I have that and plus like a 1-to-1 of THC. And that is like a good amount where if I feel like I need to sleep, that'll just knock me out.
Yeah.
Or if I just need to relax, have a chuckle, be with it still, then that's the perfect amount. Anything higher, holy fuck shit. I don't know how people can function.
No, and for anybody who doesn't know, CBD means clown's big dick. So
Get that.
God, once he gets one of them
We've
into
all
him,
heard of that.
it's lights out and it's sleepy time.
We've all heard the big dick energy theory, but this is the clown big dick
Yeah, which is for sleep.
theory.
So anyway, if you're enjoying the focus of this show, you can thank the lack of alcohol.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying it, then I'm sure we'll be drinking again. So talking about jobs, everything that we discussed before, and we actually had some listener questions, which is very exciting because, as I said, when we're going to throw out a topic before we record the episode, we want to hear any like fucked up stories or awesome stories or nightmares or whatever, or questions or thoughts or anything you have, because we can only talk to each other about the things that we think of. And we have 2 awesome questions that completely relate to what we're talking about. So the first one is off Twitter, and it's from David Cusack, at David Cusack, he and I have been talking on Twitter for like it feels like years. Seems like a super nice dude. I feel bad that I don't follow him, but I don't follow anybody.
No, you don't.
I follow one, and it's this show.
Yeah.
So everyone could be offended or no one could be offended, but I follow one thing. So David came with a rad question, and as soon as I told him Marcus, he for sure had thoughts, and I have some too. So David asks, do you have opinions on conducting design tests during the interview process? What would you suggest as alternatives to conducting design tests to fairly narrow down a large list of candidates?
So I've done a design test in my earlier years, and I hated it. I hated the pressure of it.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about it, like at the time, I definitely thought, oh, this is what people do. They give them a test to see if they can design something. When I think about it now, I think it's the dumbest thing because it doesn't apply to a real world project. You don't get the entire scope of what's happening. You don't get background information. You don't know what's involved. It's not how a real project goes. So it's totally moot. It's stupid. And I know that companies out there, reputable companies, still do this.
Yep.
And I've chatted with people who have taken the test, not gotten jobs. And I said, well, what was the feedback? Did you get anything from it? And they go, well, no, they didn't use it. And so I didn't hear back.
Yep.
It's like, so the work that you put in was for nothing. You didn't get feedback. What's the fucking point? It's dumb. How I usually do it, and I find that this works well, just talk to the person, look at their portfolio and talk to them about it. You'll get more cues and clues just from talking to somebody. I remember interviewing somebody years ago, and it kept coming out in everything that they were talking about that anything that went wrong with a project was somebody else's fault. And so I gave the guy multiple chances to come up with, like, even if it was somebody else's fault, you can still say whatever, like, what I learned from it was to do this next time or do that better. But you'll pick it up quicker of either people can talk about their work or they can't. And that'll tell you if they can sell their work, which is sometimes important, and just know what the hell they're talking about. That's how I find it much, much easier, much more reliable.
Yeah, I've gone through the process twice.
Have you done design tests?
2 of them.
Oh, no.
The first one, so what you said before is that you can't treat it like a real project. That's true. What you can do, well, it's not a real project and it won't operate as a real project, but what I did is I treated it like a real project. So when I was looking for a new gig like a year and a half ago, this app company out of America Town, they're like pretty like spread out. I think somewhere on the East Coast was their home base, and they wanted somebody to work on the app, and it was a web app and it's also like a mobile app. And And then I got through the first round, and they're like, yeah, totally. Like, now the next one is we do a paid design assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you pay for it, I think that it gives a person like, well, if it goes bad, I get paid. If it goes good, I get a job and I get paid for it anyway. So it's, I mean, it's like spec work. Only there's a little bit of money. So what I did is I wrote up a project plan. I wrote up all my questions I had for them. And then I was like, we need a call before I get started. We need an additional call. I went through all the questions I sent them beforehand. They were so appreciative. They're like, this is awesome. Like, people don't ask these questions in the test. And I'm like, well, I can't do the project properly unless I ask these questions. And they're like, well, this is great because their design project interview test, whatever it was, related to their product. Now, other companies will create one out of thin air, and it's hard to nail those because everything about it's imagined and no one's vested in it. But this one that I did, it was their product. So I asked all the questions. They answered everything in like full. I had a couple follow-ups. They answered again. I spent like 2 days off and on in between client work, laying it out. And then when I was done, I was like, and I went above and beyond because I knew what I had done was correct. And then doing a little bit more to satisfy my own, like, well, it'll feel done if I do this too. They didn't ask for it, but I just wanted to complete it because I thought that basically completed the thought I was having about it. And I sent it to them. They said, the job is yours. How much money do you want? And then I'd actually taken a position with another company. And I told them, I was like, sorry, I went with a local company. It felt more my speed, whatever. And they said, if anything ever does not work out for you, ever, you have a job here.
Right.
So that is a benefit.
So maybe there is some variances between them. Sometimes I kind of see some of those design tests as like those contests that the government will have, where a city will like design our new city logo. If we pick you, you get the prize money, but everybody else can go fuck themselves for their work. And so you kind of just, it's this weird competition of judges that you don't get feedback on. Yeah. It doesn't help you if they don't give you feedback too. I think that's a crucial part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. So what I did for that one as well, I just remembered was I did a, what's that? The Loom, the Chrome extension where you could like, it's called Loom. It's awesome. You can capture video on your screen while it records your face in the bottom corner and you capture your audio in browser.
Yeah.
It's an awesome service. And actually I have a story about that too. Looking for a job. But so I use that. I gave them a whole walkthrough of the design, like no guesswork. Like when you do this, it opens this. When you go over here and that and that and that. And it was like a 24-minute video because I was like, if I put the time into the project that I agreed to, because I thought I could do a good job, I'm not going to leave the particulars up to interpretation. Because if they don't understand it, they're like, oh, this is weird. I don't even know how this would work. I was like, because it's a fucking PNG. They don't work. It's a picture. So I walk them through it and then like that push it over the edge. So like if you're going to do a design assignment, I say just go nuts and give them your best work but only if you think you can do a really good job at that assignment. If you take on anyone that's like, well, I'll see what I can do. I mean, they're obviously looking for very specific things. And if you're not experienced in those areas, then you're probably going to waste time.
The other part of it too that kind of gets missed in all this is a design test is one thing, but actually talking to somebody to see like, do I even want to work with this person? Do they dress up as a Pegasus at work? Not to judge, but you probably don't want to work with that person.
No, it's very distracting.
So design test or not, that still doesn't mean you should have a job.
No, it does mean you're a good fit.
Yeah.
It means you pass like the gatekeeper of like ability.
Yeah, it's weird.
So the second time I did a design test was when I was looking for a job, December of last year. And yeah, I think it's the company that you're aware of as well that still does design tests.
Yes.
And they made up a product and they're like, yeah, so just ask any questions you want. And I asked a bunch, and they're like, well, we don't really have any of this information, so just like use your best judgment. I was like, my best judgment is based on information.
Mm-hmm.
I take all the facts and then I make a judgment on what should happen. I don't make a judgment on the intention of a company. And when you're dealing with a hiring person who doesn't know why any of this is in the design exercise anyway, just because it's not their job,
Mm-hmm.
then even if they do answer, it's not that solid. It's not what you're expecting. You can ask them to refine their answer, but there's also a point where it's like you have to know you're dealing with somebody who doesn't do this for a living. So now you're just being a pain in the ass, and it's probably not going to look at it anyway. So I took the information I had, I laid out my version of what I think that they do, which is probably my first mistake. And then they're like, yeah, it would look nice. It just wasn't quite what we were thinking you would do. And I was like, what did you think I would do? They're like, well, it just wasn't what we thought you would do. And I was like, that doesn't help me. Because I tried to give you my best version and they gave you like 4 hours to do it or whatever it is, my best version of what I think you guys do in a way that I thought represented me in a way as well. I mean, if I just went like nuts and said, this is just like full 100% me, then they could like easily be like, this doesn't make sense for us. Yeah. Like, this is too out there. We don't know what you're doing. So that experience bummed me out because I knew I did something stupid, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Because they just said it wasn't what they thought I would do. So given the opportunity to do another design test, would you do one? Like if it was a job that looked gnarly and they're like, we'll pay you $600. Like if you got like through 2 rounds of interviews and then it's like a $600 design challenge, would you do it?
I don't think I would.
No?
I don't know. It depends on the job.
That's the thing. Like the ones that I did it for, they look like really good jobs. And I was in a spot where I really, really wanted to change. Mm-hmm. So waiting it out wasn't going to be a good option for me.
But like if you compare it to other jobs, like if it was a trade, they wouldn't, like I don't know, but like they wouldn't give you a test before you got the job. They would look at your credentials and say like, okay, you're qualified to do this. Yeah. Great. When can you start?
But it's hard to prove credentials with what we do. Because you can be like,
true,
here's my portfolio. And every time I show it, the person hiring goes, what portions of these pieces of work did you do? And if I say, I wrote it all, I designed it all, I planned it all, I built some of it. And they're like, whoa, that's cool. We assume that people show us good work and maybe they did some production work on it and they claim it as their own. So I get that whole like,
which is
so hard to prove.
Right. Which is why you need to have scales on your resume of skill levels of how good you are at Photoshop.
Coffee enemas you suck back a day. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thanks for asking the question, David, at David Cusack on Twitter.
I don't think we solved it. I don't think we answered complete, but I feel like we gave
wanted alternatives to conducting design tests to narrow down a large list of candidates. We can touch on that quickly. What do you think? If you had 100 applicants, how do you narrow it down without design tests? How do you see the whole thing through with them? Like, what would you do?
I don't know. Maybe just I would, because a design test could take a long time. I'd find a personality test.
Yeah,
that might take a shorter amount of time. Start there and weed out people that you maybe don't want in the department or your group.
Yeah, I think if you have a large list of candidates, there's a lot of cuts you could make just based on the resume, how they approached you, the quality of your work. Yeah. And then from there, I mean, if you talk to the person a few times and you're still not like, I'm still unsure about this, I think I need them to prove it, then that could be valid. But I mean, like if you have a lot of experience, a huge portfolio, a lot of references, and that should satisfy like any other job. Like, hey, call these clients or other people I worked with and coworkers, and like you can message them, and if the feedback is good, then like, let's do this. If that happened and then they said, now we want you to complete a design challenge, it's like, no. The design challenge was the past 19
Yeah.
years. Like, this is the interview process.
Yeah.
This is the getting a job challenge. It's not like I'm done being tested. Like, is it go time or not? So yeah, I could see me saying no to it, but also I'm the kind of like, I'm the like obsessive idiot. When someone's like, oh, I can't find my keys, I start scouring the house because I'm like, I want to solve this problem. I want to solve. So if someone's like, this is a design challenge, there's a big part of my brain that like comes alive and like, ooh, I want to do that.
But you also, I guess the other flip side would be you don't want to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Look at my stuff, because then you come off as being a big ego and nobody wants to work with you.
Yep.
Oh man, I want to come back to this at some point.
Yeah.
I want to find a solution for that. I'm thinking that there is something out there.
This is the design challenge.
But
how do you design a hiring process?
Right. For a huge group of people that are playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, that was great.
We'll come back to this. But
yeah. So the second question we got is from Instagram, and it's from @Harry's Custom Paint, who, if you listen to episode 3 of our season 1, we had the Dobell brothers on. Yeah. And this is how I've learned of Harry's Custom Paint. They're buddies, and I think they were drinking beer at the Dobells yesterday. But Harry's Custom Paint does really, really crisp, beautiful painted work. Like, they paint a lot of trucks, signs, really old school kind of pinstripey. It all has a good vibe, like the Dobell stuff. It just has like a fun vibe to it, but it's also done like with like crisp ass precision. So thank you @Harry's Custom Paint for asking a question, and also doing rad work. So everybody go check that out just for fun, just because if you use a computer all day, go look at someone like Harry's Custom Paint or Dobell Designs or any of the other ones that they follow, and just look at people doing amazing work with a brush. It's
you've probably seen his work on any truck that's driven past you.
Yeah, since you were a child. So Harry's Custom Paint asked, sat and had multiple beers with @Dobell Designs tonight, which makes total sense to me because that's what I do when I go there. And a recurrent subject is getting paid what you're worth and how to pass that on to the next generation of craftsmen. Craftspeople?
Oh, yeah.
Crafts everybody's.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Crafts,
time's up are changing.
Getting paid for what you're worth.
Rationale. I always back it up with rationale. When I look for a job or I pitch to a client, they say, why are you worth this much? And I say, because nothing I showed you was a lie. I did all of this and I can do all of this. So I know what that's worth to a company. When you hire me, you are hiring 2 people.
You've obviously had to answer this question.
Yeah.
That's why.
But that's the hardest thing to do, I found, was like early on, was value yourself. Because you always, like, and someone asked for, sign painting job, like, hey, so we want you to paint our window, gold leaf, all that kind of stuff. And then you say, okay, what's your budget? And they say $20 or $500. And you're like, I can't do it for $500. They're like, well, what's the price? And you say, well, that'll be $1,500. They're like, well, can you give me a discount? It's like, well, okay, I can do it for $12. All you've done is devalued your own work. Mm-hmm. You're going to get down to a price where you're bummed on it because you know it's worth more. And then you won't enjoy the project. Now, the terrifying thing there is saying no to any money at all.
But also how to set your value is a huge thing in itself.
Yeah, and it's not just your value, it's inherently the value of the work to that client. If Wang had Muffins around the corner, was like, we need a new logo. I'm like, all right, like, you're a new muffin store. I don't even know why I said muffins. I fucking hate muffins. The worst ball of dry raisiny shit. Anyway, Wang Head Muffin says we need a new logo. And I meet with them and they're very nice people. And it's like, well, you only have like $700 for a logo. What I can do is I can kill all the research part. Why don't we just like sketch out on a piece of paper what you're looking for? And I'm going to draw it out too. I'm going to tell you why things are good and bad ideas. And I'm going to be like, well, I'll take this and we'll do this and do this. And does that look cool? And they're like, that would be great. I'm like, cool. I'll go home and make this. This is purely your logo. Whether the customers will like it or not, I don't know. But it's worth me removing the research to help them. So to me, $700 for like a few hours of my time will help them quite a bit. So I think there's like an inherent value in helping people when you can afford to do it and when it seems like a good fit and you lay out proper parameters.
Yes.
And then if Nike came and like, we want you to design, a logo for the new, I don't know, like Stefan Janowski skate shoe, which is a huge skate shoe. I don't know why I didn't pick something people
names.
know. I was like, Michael Jordan. Nobody's going to know that. It's all about Stefan Janowski. But it's like, we want you to design the new label for like the tongue. It's like, well, this is Nike.
Right.
So $700 ain't going to happen. I'm going to say, well, I understand that the value of a really good product from me will amount to X amount in sales for you. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be $150,000 because it means $150 million in sales to you in the next 5 years. It's value. So you have to value your contribution to that company rather than the hourly rate at which you do it.
Right. I've had conversations with potential clients where they started with an idea of what something would be. And then in talking with them, you realize, no, what you're describing is a huge app.
Yeah.
And it's going to, design alone is going to be like 10 to 15,000 because I know how long it's going to take because of everything you've just listed out. It's not 2 pages.
90 for development.
Yeah. And it immediately scares them off. And, they say, can you go lower? It's like, no, because I know how long it's going to take.
We say, yes, but I will do less for it. Like, I can do the project for $1, but you've already spent it by talking to me right now. Like, how much can you spend? And like,
here's what you could get for that.
But it's hard to say no, isn't it?
It is, but at the same time, you kind of, in the back of your head, like, do I even want to take this on? Do I have the time? So you can also, there's that. See, that's a whole other conversation about like price scaring.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't really want to do this project, but I'm going to go a really high ballpark to see if they go for it. Then I'll do it. But then if something you like, you might go lower because you actually want to work on it.
But they may have said yes to higher.
It's true.
It's so fucked. Like, I know somebody that as well, successful company and they've done a bunch of stuff that it's really, really big money clients and it's just impressive work with their company. And when an email comes in, when they were actively with the company every day, he told me that when somebody messaged like, hey, we'd like to work with you. This is our project. This is our background. This is our, our board of directors or whatever. He'd reply, he's like, yeah, that sounds great. Our minimum engagement is $250,000. Are you comfortable proceeding? And if they said, no, we have like 40. He's like, cool. I'm sure there's a lot of other companies that can help you. We wish you nothing but the best. Because that's how much a project had to cost in order to make it worth their while. Because they had a large team, highly skilled team, highly like high wages and all that. And also just setting a precedent where we don't deal with, with these customers. It could be a year of development of the brand and the products they're making for them and all that. It'd be like, we are going to give you 100% of a team's attention for a year. And that team's combined salary is worth money. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to shortchange ourselves by losing money on work.
Yeah.
Just because we wanted to book it.
We're in this, we constantly come up with this, from what I understand it a few times, where we know how long it's going to take to do something. We know the effort it's required, the technical requirements. So we quote with that knowledge, and then the client we'll say like, oh, that's too high for us. We end up going with this team because they quote us lower. And we know that they're going to be paying that, what we quoted in the end, because it's going to take that long.
Yep.
But it's that initial scare, but sometimes you have to stand by it. And other times you can be flexible.
Well, if you want to, on the other end of the project, when it's done, feel good about it, feel that you were compensated for the work that you did, then charge it. And it's really hard to tell young, like when Harry's asking, like, how do you pass it on to the next generation?
Mm-hmm.
You tell them, you know, there are times they're going to be lean. You're eating, like I said before, rice and beans because things are tight, but there are more projects around the corner. Don't hang back and say, oh, I don't have any work. Go find it.
Mm-hmm.
Spend the time you would have been, spend the time looking for a new contract that you would have been spending on working for an underpriced contract.
Yeah.
So it would have been 3 months of slogging away on this like shit contract for no money, but you're afraid the money would go away. Spend a week looking for a good contract actively every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm confident you'll find something that is more rewarding than the thing you said no to. So it could be a week of uncertainty versus 3 months of being bummed on a project. The client's going to be bummed because you're taking forever because you're taking on other contracts to supplement your income and all that. So by taking less than you're worth, you're actually becoming less effective and a worse contractor or company to engage with because you're just after money now. You stop trying to do good work. And then once you get into that rut of I take on mediocre contracts because now I have too many going that I can't take on a big project, so I have to take on these piecemeal ones. And I've seen a bunch of companies that's how they exist. Mm-hmm. And they're bummed. They're like, we used to make fun stuff. Now we fucking slash templates and put out crap work and we contract to like Indonesia. And it's like, well, that's only to pay the rent because you're afraid of what'll happen if you say no to the office. Like, hey, everyone go work from home for 6 months and we're going to build some good contracts. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. We were working with a Welsh known illustrator.
Not Welsh?
Well, a Welsh illustrator.
It's Tom Jones.
On a project. And he was not meeting deadlines. He was producing really dog shit work. And then you go on to his Twitter account and he's like, having a hard time finding work right now. Got to get out there. It's like, we're giving you work.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Just because it's not the coolest thing on the planet. It's also that, like, we're paying you your value that you quoted because we expected that. And it's like, now because of that interaction, would never work with this person. I'd never recommend them.
So that's a great point, and something that touches on what Harry asked about is if you take on work for a reduced rate, you get a good reputation as an affordable designer. But then if you have a shit attitude, then you get a reputation as an asshole.
We agreed to his full rate.
Yeah, but he may have reduced it just to get the work. Like if he's quoting under what he thinks he should get, then that could be why his attitude sucks.
Yeah.
So quote what you think you should get, be delighted when that contract lands, and then your attitude will get exponentially better when you know you're getting the money that you actually need to like be comfortable and progress and you know buy new equipment and all that. Like not every dollar you make goes to food and rent and all this kind of shit. Like you need, you know, a new $3,500 computer or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So bill for that as well. So I'd say in response to Harry, you're probably like everyone's probably kind of undervaluing themselves day to day. Examine how much money would I need to be happy, comfortable, to be able to, you know, if disaster strikes and the laptop goes in the ocean, can I just go and buy a new one without feeling the sting too bad? Like, and then what hourly rate or project rate or whatever rate you want to do will it take to get there? And then maybe give yourself like, and in 3 months I want to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if that doesn't work, fuck, don't tell me because that was just an idea.
That's fair.
So thank you very much at Harry's Custom Paint for asking a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Because that was awesome.
And go check out his work. It's really great.
Yeah, it's crisp as shit.
Where's he? Is he from here?
No.
Vancouver.
Chris has talked. No, there's a guy out there, Big Top Sign Arts, I believe.
Yeah.
He's like a very seasoned dude who does like really, really cool work out there. I believe Harry is from America. I don't remember, but I know he's commented on stuff on mine on Instagram once in a while. He just seems like a rad dude, and apparently he likes to have a beer or two. And who the hell doesn't? So to wrap things up, I want to go over.
Oh yeah, what did you
tweet.
find?
So I'll omit the first one because it's just boring. It's somebody complaining about the designers at Supreme.
Are you going to bring it up on the screen?
Oh, yeah. The designers.
I want to take advantage of this monitor that we have in front of us.
Yeah. So yes, we all complain about the designers at Supreme because all they do is steal shit from the 90s and charge $1 million for it. So quite a hot take on that one. What I'll do is I'm going to put this up on a screen, which is great audio. And I'm going to type, which is
even better.
Almost audio because you can almost kind of hear it.
Clickety clack.
So yeah, so I found one more
paper.
What does Google want to?
Wikipedia.
Oh, Jesus. I don't ever use Chrome because I find it to be hideous to look at.
Why did you use it then?
Because I have my work stuff in Safari all logged in, and then I have other Dropbox and all that other kind of shit in the other one.
Sure.
In Chrome, I'm very technical.
Well, there's the wonderful picture.
Yeah, the daughter typeface. Twitter. All right, so there's the Supreme one.
You can collapse in paper now.
Yeah, with headings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you're not using Dropbox paper, then you are deeply disturbed. It's so simple.
It's good, but it's limited in functionality anyways.
Yeah, but I enjoyed limits because it's just like, well, I can't do more than this. I'll just do this.
Right.
So the first one I'll talk about is from on Twitter at TMTG, which I assume is Teenage Mutant Turtle guy, at Joe_got_game. It says, creative blocks as a designer are the worst, bruh. Amen.
Sure. Move on to something else.
Nope, just Twitter's a valid medium.
Yeah.
And not that anything I put up is anything. So, our friend Frank Gates at Frank Jake. I think he's watching like an interior design show called Best Room Wins based on his stupid hashtag. Anyway, so Frank Gates at Frank Jake says, I feel terrible for Genevieve having to host such a horrible show. The designers, if you can even consider them designers, are the worst I've ever seen, especially the Persian Jew. No taste whatsoever. So obviously this caught my interest because seems to be full of hate, and a good portion of it, like all the hate in this man seems to be divided up evenly between interior design and racism.
Why not throw a location and a religion into it as well?
So that piqued my interest because
he had four likes on that.
It's a beautiful world, and
he knows his audience.
We're all swimming in it. So I clicked on his profile because I wanted to get inside the head of Frank.
Because that was from May 1st, 2019.
Yeah. These aren't tweets. Yeah, full disclaimer: these are not tweets from 1958, when maybe this talk was more common, which you'll see in the next tweet. But yeah, these are modern. So Frank goes on to say. So remember, at Frank Jake, go and tell him how much you like his lime green sleeveless shirt in his profile photo. Tweet number 2 says, OMG, the Persian Jew uses cardboard-backed bookcases in someone's living room? They look worse than his plucked eyebrows, and his clients take away their gay cards. I'm not sure who's worse, gays or designers with no taste. Holy shit. Hashtag best room wins. So yeah, I wanted to share that with everybody.
This is why the internet was created. This is what social networks are all about. What is Best from Wins? Did you bother to look it up?
No, I just like the mystery.
Great.
It exists in my head as
Taking
something
things out of context is the only way to context.
So much of at Frank Jake's feed is complaining about fashion design shows and interior design shows, and he is a full hate-filled piece of shit. So
cool.
Yeah, so that was it. Only took like 4 screens worth of scrolling before I landed on racism in designer. So yeah.
Well, that one got 5 likes, so he was moving on, and there were 7 like 10 minutes apart.
Yeah, he was on fire. That one must be his 8th Chardonnay, just firing with all cylinders. So yeah, so that was cool, and so go check that out if you are a horrible person. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. I felt good.
Thanks for the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, the questions were great. We were a little more structured than normal. Just a little over 2 hours, which is...
for fuck's sake.
Whatever. We'll figure it out. Or we won't fucking... Anyway, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Worst Design Show. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify.
We're on Spotify now.
Yeah, I think we're on Google Play. I don't know if anybody actually uses Google Play.
I know one person, maybe.
All right. Well, if you're listening, it could be Frank Jake.
Could be.
In that case, we'll take it down. But yeah, so if you have any thoughts on any of the stupid stuff we talked about, let us know. You can comment on whatever you want there. Direct. I guess no, don't direct message us. I don't care. I don't.
We'll be direct messaging you. So
yeah, but anything that's interesting that happens, I just screenshot and I send to you anyway. Like the SoundCloud statistics, 100 listens this month. But anyway,
all from Persia.
Frank. So yeah, thanks for listening. This was a lot of fun. We're gonna be back in 2 weeks with another one. Maybe it'll get more frequent at some point, but it feels like a comfortable pace right now.
Yeah, it's easier doing it less frequently because it's life commitments and
So thanks. Oh, and yeah, we have a bunch of games and shit we're gonna play too. I found like a design Jeopardy and stuff, and we have a host lined up.
It's gonna be so bad.
We have Alec who's gonna be hosting our game. So yeah, that's gonna be hopefully the next episode.
Yeah,
might as well.
See what happens.
We'll there's the whole concept for the next one. So thanks again for listening. Remember, making pictures for living ain't that bad, and if you think it is, then you're the worst. Goodbye.